You get to have company.
Indeed.
It's always the longest minute when you're waiting for it to get to the top of the hour, isn't it?
Yes, because it's the same minute I'm waiting for us to connect to YouTube, but we are there. We are live on YouTube. So, and we already have somebody watching.
In that we don't have Chairman Horton on yet, we don't have a quorum for the committee.
Commissioner Horton is
Never
here.
mind. Never mind.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Good morning.
Morning.
It's 10 o'clock. So I'll call the meeting of the Finance and Administration Committee to order. Mr. Tobin Hope, Commissioner Hope gave me a call this morning, and said he could not make the meeting. So, but we still have our quorum, so we'll continue. We'll leave it at that. Do you want to do the roll call, Nicole, or do we just go ahead and voice our physical location?
You
You
just
can
go ahead
and
and
voice it.
Commissioner Jelazinski, participating from my home in Chippewa Township, Isabella County, Michigan.
Commissioner Jim Horton, your District 4, participating from my home, Union Township, Mount Pleasant, Michigan, Isabella County.
Thank you. Our next item is call to the public.
there is no public at this time, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Well, then our first item of business is consider placing or accepting and placing on file the January 21st, 2021 routine personnel items as presented. I was looking at the list and the only one that really sticks out as being unusual is the resignation of the dispatch supervisor. Is there a reason for that that you can discuss here? Or? It seems like
Actually, he left for another opportunity.
Okay, all right.
Well, there you go.
You have any other questions?
I have nothing. I'll make a motion then to consider accepting and placing on file the January 21st, 2021 routine personnel items as presented.
A motion, or do we just move it on to work session?
Normally on this one, you should make a motion and you support and we vote.
Okay.
Yep.
I'll second.
Yep.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Okay.
The routine personal items moves on to the work session. Next item, number 5, consider approving the agreement for inmate healthcare services between Isabella County and WellPath LLC effective October 1st, 2020 through September 30th, 2023, and authorize the board chair to sign the same.
Sheriff Mann, you're muted, just to let you know. Oh, there you go. Perfect.
The sheriff is here. I know we took action on this at a prior board meeting and looks like we have the contract now. Sheriff, do you want to comment?
Yeah, good morning. You know, that is correct. It's kind of been a long process here. With everything else in life, everything seems to be moving at a little slower pace. So we did do an RFP, Lieutenant Dush and Nicole worked on that, and we had a good RFP put out. We got 3 vendors that responded back. The Board of Commissioners selected WellPath, which is our current and medical contract folks. And we've been working on that contract to kind of get some bugs down. We got the hours and so forth kind of put together that we wanted. And this is what the final presentation was. This is obviously our biggest contract that we have, that we do. It's extremely pricey, but extremely invaluable. Obviously, we utilize them all day, every day. So we really couldn't live without them. And I've mentioned this multiple times in the past. This is these folks are more like our employees sometimes. They do great things for us. They provided us flu vaccinations. They do all kinds of stuff for us. So we are extremely happy with their service and them being here. And we look forward to another 3 years with them. The financial impact is pretty staggering, but that is kind of the going rate. And they were actually probably one of the more economically compared to the hours worked out of the 3 RFPs. So there is a CPI or Consumer Price Index up to 3% every year, and usually we see that. Then we do an addendum to the contract. I think if there's anything else, or if you guess you have questions, and maybe it's easier just to try to answer questions.
Tim? Commissioner Ward?
Just real quick, you said 3%. I thought it was 4% on the CPI.
Yeah, it was. Sorry, it was. I think it was 3% in the prior contract. It's 4% in this one.
Yeah. And the national average the last 5 years is right around 2. So I don't think that's anything that's earth shattering as far as that goes. Just a couple quick questions. What has that been over the last few years on the last contract? The number doesn't seem to be that much higher. I know I can't remember what we talked about. I think it went up a little bit, but it did consistently. It hasn't gone up like 15, 20%. So, I mean, what have we been paying over the last few years per month?
Yeah, and I could pull up pretty quick here if you wanted to, but right off the top of my head, I think we were like in the 350, 370 range. And, I think we started around 350, and at the end of the contract, it was more like 360, 365, 70, somewhere in there. So
Okay.
it wasn't a huge jump. We did add a few hours of mental health, so that was good. We've got the nursing hours where we want them, and we think they're appropriate and useful for us as well.
Where and I know with the new jail being built and everything, obviously we're a year and a half, 2 years or whatever away. But right now, what is the usage of for a better term, telemedicine? Is there a lot of uses? The on-site visits, I think you could coordinate. Again, this certainly your guys' call and everything, but with the advent of telemedicine, especially during the COVID era, I think that's going to be one issue, one thing that's going to, it was already building steam, in lack of a better term, or already becoming the norm, but now it's the norm as far as getting, see, Margaret, I created a new term, the norm.
I know, good job.
Again, especially when you're dealing with mid-level practitioners and everything too. It seems to be, especially in your type of setting, with telemedicine, it probably opens up a whole lot more access.
And it does. And we, a couple things we've done since the start of that, we were able to get 2 or 3 small Google computers or laptops that we can do some of that stuff with. IT Michelle was able to get us some internet back there, which is helpful. We just increased our Polycoms to 4 from 2, using some of the COVID funds and stuff for courts, but it also uses for telehealth and Zoom. And it has been a huge increase, obviously, with the telehealth stuff, both psych and medical, for that matter. And Kevin can speak to this here in a second, but I'll tell you too that there is a huge value to in-person when it comes to psychological and mental health evaluations. In our the WellPath lady that comes in is a phenomenal lady, and she does a great job, and she actually probably gives us more hours than we pay for, right? Hopefully WellPath's not listening, but
oh, you should. Why are you putting that on public airwaves for? That's on YouTube.
She does a phenomenal job for us, and we love her to death. But, and I will tell you that we have kind of off topic a little, but we have just negotiated a deal with Community Mental Health, and they have a position 40 hours a week dedicated to the jail for mental health, and they will start that pretty much telehealth style, and then as things kind of succeed for COVID related, we'll get them in here, and we've obviously got designed in the new facility locations for them to do that kind of stuff, and then we have additional stuff in the new facility for telehealth. Kevin, you want to add something?
Yeah, I just want to add in on behalf of WellPath. They were, I think, one of the ones a little bit ahead of the game with the telehealth. In our previous contract over 3 years ago, they built in the telepsychiatry component, and we've been using that for over 3 years with them, which is phenomenal. The nice thing, maybe one of the silver linings with COVID, is as other health providers have become more comfortable with telehealth, that has limited a lot of our trips outside of the facility with inmates, because what we're doing is if the inmate comes into jail and they had an existing scheduled appointment, or they needed to see their, maybe a simple follow-up, for example, get some stitches out or something, the process had started before they came to jail. now our nurse will just get on and do a telehealth meeting with their family physician or whoever the surgeon was with the inmate present. And so that's really limited our number of outside of the building transports, which is great for safety and security, not to mention manpower hours. So WellPath is doing great on the telehealth stuff. So.
Wonderful. The only thing I like to just close in saying that I do notice that there's always anything I've read over these in the years, capping, and I speak to what I kind of know best about prescription drugs. I see that there's always a cap involved, and that's because it's, so much of the medication is probably generic drugs. But anything that exceeds the cap, Sheriff, I'll just throw this out, and it's going on YouTube, but I don't care. If your staff ever has any questions as far as, high price medications, I'd be more than willing to maybe not put myself into it because there might be a little conflict or not, but not even from a financial standpoint, just trying to help the county out with, we have obviously with depending on the types, especially if they're brand name medications, there's a lot of assistance. There's a lot of coupons, for lack of actually, they're not lack of a better term, it is the term, coupons involved. And sometimes because I don't know if those are being used, hopefully they are. If not, I can certainly point your staff directions to obtain those, to chase those, and to try to get that, because there's a lot of dollars that can be saved, especially with brand names. Most brand names have some type of assistance or program that you can really cut back on the expenses on the brand name drugs. So
And that's good information, obviously, to know. I know, over the few years that I've been here, we've had a few of those cases, whether they're, cancer related or some other, major stuff that creates some high dollar medicines. I will tell you that, one of the things that's, again, kind of come out of COVID is, some of these folks were using, and I think you guys approved the last meeting, tether and monitoring and GPS and stuff. And I can tell you that we're using those things for some of these people that we have here that have serious medical issues that, one, that we can't care for them properly. So that's the first thing. But they are expensive to the county. So utilizing those tethers and those things that you guys approved over the last meeting or so has been very beneficial in helping us keep those costs under control as well. So.
Okay. Thank you. Chairman Jelezinski or Commissioner Jelezinski, that's all I have.
Okay. I was looking at Exhibit A, the staffing matrix, and see that there's pretty wide coverage throughout the week. And I think just that chart and what the county's doing it's also a risk management tool. Every once in a while, you read about a county being sued because of a suicide in the jail or not providing adequate health care. I think this shows that we're doing our due diligence in that matter, and we'll not only help the people incarcerated, but we'll also help defend the county against any of those lawsuits in the future.
Commissioner, I can tell you that just recently, within the last week or two, and I won't disclose any names, obviously, for obvious reasons, but we had an inmate that was brought in that had been cleared by a local ED, and our nurse evaluated them and said, no, we're not going to accept them. There's some issues going on here. And lo and behold, that night, that person ended up in the hospital for several days afterwards. So those are the exact reasons why we have those folks here.
Thank you. Unless there's other comments or questions, I will move this forward to the work session.
We have to do a motion, and so we have to do a motion on this. I'll make a motion. Consider approving the agreement for inmate health care services between Isabella County and WellPath LLC, effective October 1st, 2020 through September 30th, 2023, and authorize the board chair to sign the same.
I will second that motion. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. It moves forward. So every item then needs to have a motion, not just
Not necessarily, not the invoice list discussion, because that's just for discussion. And anything that says consider, that then you put a motion on that, because you're asking the board to consider. We're considering it, then we're making a motion to consider going to the work session.
All
So
right.
that's kind of the format involved on that. So
Item number 6, consider adopting Isabella County Board of Commissioners Resolution 21-02-01. Notice of intent bond resolution declaring official intent to issue limited tax general obligation bonds for the Isabella County Sheriff's Office and Correctional Facility Construction Project in an amount not to exceed $41,500,000.
Hard to say that, huh?
Yeah. I had to think about that.
Yeah, that's a big number.
Well, I did speak to Tobin about this particular issue because I knew I was coming into this meeting not in favor of moving forward at this time, and I will explain my reason for that shortly. But I wanted to know what he felt on it because I didn't want to stalemate the committee. If my no vote and Commissioner Horton's yes vote would result in a tie, it would not move forward. However, Tobin, we talked about it, and Tobin said he favors it. And so if the Commissioner Horton favors it, I will vote in favor to move it on. But then we'll make a presentation on the floor to delay this matter. I am very supportive of the county jail. I know we need it. I am concerned that we don't have a full financial picture of what the implications are moving to move ahead. I think it was 4 years ago, we asked administration to come up with a budget tool that gave us a 3 to 5 year look down the road at the operational budget. For whatever reason, this hasn't been a priority. And I find that is upsetting to me personally, only because one of our major functions is the financial well-being of this county and the sustainability of services for the long term. And now we have this brought before us, and this is going to be a major impact on our budget for the next 40 years. We have a rosy picture of where the revenue is going to come to support this project. But we already know as commissioners, these same revenues have been invested heavily in our operational budget. So they're being moved from one pie over to another pie. What does that mean for our operational budget? Are we going to not be able to sustain our services? Are we going to have budget cuts? Are we not going to provide pay increases? These are all questions that I have that I don't think any one commissioner can give an answer to at this particular time. I would hope that this gets delayed until we have this budget forecast presented to us so we can get a clear picture of what we're looking at down the road. And then make an informed decision. Right now, I can't make an informed decision.
Okay. Jared, it's okay if we let Margaret
Yes.
present
Yes.
this, and then I'll comment, and you obviously will comment on it too. I mean, as far as the specifics to the resolution. But is that okay with you, Jared, if we do like that?
That's fine.
Okay,
No, that's fine.
okay.
Margaret?
So let's go through this action. So the purchase agreement that the county has entered into with the current owners of the property states in there that we will be following a 40-year financing agreement for the purchase of the property and the building of the facility. So what you have in front of you is the notice of intent for the bond resolution. So we are applying because the county is interested in financing over 40 years. The option to do that is with the USDA. So this is the application process of what we have to do to move that forward. This is the same process the Board of Commissioners went through. If you remember a couple of years ago when the Road Commission came to us and they were going to originally use USDA funding, they thought, to build their facility. This is the same process we went through with that. Eventually they went in another direction. But if we want to do the 40-year financing, then the USDA is our option. And this is the process to do that. So this is, this resolution has been put together by our bond counsel, which is Dickinson Wright, who the county has used for years and years and years. They're obviously a very large law firm with offices pretty much, well, I know the Lansing and Detroit offices, but they certainly have offices across the state. And I have used them as a bond attorney on other projects and in other counties I was at. So I have a great deal of faith in Dickinson Wright, and the county has used them as recently as this fall when we were doing bonding for a drain project. The drain commissioner used Dickinson and Wright. So we're familiar with them. We're familiar with Eric McLaughlin, who is representing Dickinson Wright. He's on the call today if we would like to chat with him about the subject that's in the staff report. So what we would be doing with this resolution is designating that, yes, Dickinson Wright is our bond counsel, and that, yes, Tom Teresiak from, hold on, I have it highlighted here, from his company would be our financial advisor. And again, this resolution is required for us to move forward because we have to do a posting and we have to have the information posted in the newspaper for a certain number of days, which then allows the public to come forth with any comments they have. Very similar, it's the exact same process we use for the Railroad Commission. So our financial advisor and the bond counsel will work with us throughout the process and the bond issuance. The costs of both the financial advisor and the bond attorney would be part of what we are borrowing. Just like all of the other costs we've spent so far, that's clearly stated in the information also that the bills that the county has paid to the architectural firm, the engineering firm, and any place else that we have spent any dollars moving forward on the jail project will all be reimbursed to the county. And so it's fairly straightforward what the information is, what we need to do, why we need to do it this way. And, we would be defraying all the costs of acquiring, construction, finishing, and equipping the new facility. If the Board of Commissioners decides not to do this at this time, this is going to delay the project dramatically. I do feel that we had a wonderful presentation and an information and documentation provided to the Board of Commissioners from our CPA, Steve Korenovic, on how we were going to pay for this. Does that mean that every cent, from the wind farms would go into this project? Probably not every cent, but I think since we have been discussing this for a number of years, it's always been the understanding that that would be primarily what the revenue from the wind farms would be used for. It would be used for something substantial that will stand in this community for decades. So this is the process to move forward. I think it's imperative that we do move forward. And I do believe that we have a good plan of how we're going to pay for it over the next number of years based on the strategy that we developed in the administrator's office and that Steve put together in that study. I understand and I accept your criticism, Commissioner Jablonski. However, I think that we have done a great job of providing information to the Board of Commissioners on how this project will be paid for. I'm willing to answer any questions, and Eric is on the phone if we have any questions regarding the resolution or that end of the discussion.
Commissioner Horton?
As to the resolution, I'm going to speak just right now, just to the document itself. Margaret, I have a question, and maybe Eric can jump in here. Eric, keep your billable hours down. We're going to have enough money in you guys, so keep them down for me today, okay? In regards to the resolution, the notice of intent to issue bonds, how specific do we have to be to the location? Let's say, for instance, worst case scenarios happen when we actually move out of the charter township of Union. Let's say something happens and we have to not take the site as presented, and we want to, for luck happens, or not luck happens, but we choose to go to an alternative site in the city of Mount Pleasant. Do we have to be as specific to the location, or can we be more general as to the location in the intent and the resolution?
Commissioner Horton, thank you for that question. Mr. Chair, members of the committee, thanks for having me here this morning. In answer to your question, Commissioner Horton, you can be more general in that description. I was under the impression that it was a done deal, so to speak. So if the desire is to make it more general, I can certainly do that, of course. Usually when there is a specifically known site, we do include it just to make it crystal clear to the electors what the project is going to be and where it's going to be. So that if you do, the alternative is if you use the more general description and you put it in Mount Union Township, theoretically somebody could challenge it at some point in the future thinking that you didn't fully inform them of what the project was going to be. So that's why we opt for the specificity when we believe that it is there. So that's why it's there. And in answer to your question about billable hours, the way I bill my services is a flat fee paid at closing out of bond proceeds. I track billable hours internally for our own purposes, but it's never charged against the county. We have an engagement letter for a flat fee, and that's how it's billed.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, that was, like I said, that was one of the things I noticed right off the bat in regards to that. Margaret, where are we at with, because this is the amount of fees that we're paying, is that standard? Does it go by, or Eric, you might be, does it go by the amount of the project or the amount of time? I mean, sure, you've done estimates and the amount of time you're going to put in. I know there's a lot of probably standard things that you have to do in regards to this, but how does that normally work? Is that on a project this size? Is that a normal amount or a high amount, low amount? I mean, you're going to tell me it's a perfect rate down the middle and you're giving us the lowest possible rate you can give us.
Exactly. Yeah, it's based on the size of the bond deal. So if the bond deal goes up, the fee does as well. So it's consistent with industry practice for this size bond deal. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. Margaret and Jerry, what's your thoughts on being, so in other words, then to be more specific, like say Charter Township of Union, that helps us if we ever get challenged, or that hurts us if we ever get challenged? Let's say for instance, this project goes south and we end up not taking this project. We have to do a whole new tentative resolution, and we do go into the city of Mount Pleasant that would go south, or, I mean, would we have to change everything, or could we just do an amendment? I don't know. I guess if we put notice out there, then you have to change the notice then.
I would think more general language is preferable.
I would like our bond counsel to discuss that. I didn't go to law school, so I'd like him to give us his advice. This is what he does for a living.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, there's some, well, I won't go into it. There's some posturing involved, and I want to try to not weaken the county's hand, so to say. What's your recommendation, Eric? Do you think we should just leave it as is?
If the expectation is right now that the jail will be placed in the Charter Township of Union, then we should keep it as is. If there are ongoing discussions about possibly having another location, then that's something we should discuss offline and possibly amend.
Absolutely. Now, I would think right now, just keeping it basic, since we're not putting a specific address to that site in Charter Township of Union, I think it's probably, in all negotiations and discussions that we've had without going too far astray, I think it's safe to say probably, as we've said before, it's going to be in the Charter Township of Union. So I think I'm comfortable, Jerry, I think I'm comfortable with that language, unless something drastically happens. But I would be more concerned, I guess, if we got more specific as the identification of the parcel versus a general township. So, and I can go with Jerry, I can have discussions with you if you'd like on that at another time, or Steve too, if you ever want. So if you guys want, so I'm okay with that. I just wanted to make sure if we got to take it out, but it's probably better to leave it in. Trying to think if I see anything else. Looks pretty standard. And again, there's publication notices, but I think you said 40, once you get it out, it's 45 days. And it has to be there for time for people to comment and everything. So, so I'm going to switch, Jerry, if I'm going to reserve until after you have questions specific to the resolution, but I'd like to comment. I'll make the motion, and then if you want, I can make the motion, and then we can have more discussion. Or if you want to ask questions on it, then I'll make the motion, and then I'll have a discussion part of it. How would you like?
I think we both can discuss. Usually you have your discussion after the motion anyhow. So.
Okay. All right. I'll make the motion then to consider adopting consider adopting Isabella County Board of Commissioners Resolution number 21-02-01, notice of intent bond resolution declaring official content to issue limited tax general obligation bonds for the Isabella County Sheriff's Office and Correctional Facility Construction Project in an amount not to exceed $41,500,000.
I will second.
Okay,
The questions I have on the resolution, is there a petition that should come with this? Or let's say they have a group of citizens that would wish to oppose it, would they have to come up with their own form?
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, you kind of broke up there and I couldn't hear your question.
You have a 45-day period in which the residents of the county could, by petition, ask for this to come before the county in a voted referendum. Is there a form for that petition that should be provided with this resolution, or is that something that a group of citizens would have to come up with on their own?
No, sir, it should not be provided with this resolution. Yes, they would have to come up with it on their own.
Okay. My final question on this is, if we take this then to the Board of Commissioners, the work session and regular board meeting, and this is approved, is that the final step? From that point on, everything is in place and we move forward with the construction of the sheriff's office and the jail? Or is this just a procedural thing where we have another chance to have our questions answered?
No, it is not the final step. So this is the first step required under state law in order to impart authority to the county to proceed to the bond issuance. It does three important things, as we've discussed parts of it previously. So this resolution and the notice of intent, once it's published, will set the maximum principal amount that can be borrowed. That's $41,500,000 as is stated in here. It sets the scope of the project that can be financed with the bond proceeds. And that's why the project description is important. If there's anything left out, we should include it. If there's nothing left out, then we should go forward. And the third important thing is that it announces the right of the county electors to petition for referendum on the issuance of the bonds. If there is a petition received by 10%, the lesser of 10% of the county's registered electors or 15,000 registered electors, then it has to go to a vote. It starts the 45-day referendum period, after which you will then have the authority to proceed to issue the bonds. At that point, we would come back to the county with a bond resolution, which authorizes issuing the bonds and establishes the parameters within which the bonds can be issued, and delegates to the appropriate county officials the authority to sell the bonds. In this case, would be to rural development within certain bond parameters, execute a sale order establishing those details, and selling, executing, and delivering those bonds to rural development. And that would be the final step. So there are more steps coming down the line, but the next step and the final one for the board would be the adoption of a bond resolution, which we're not there yet. But once the referendum period runs and we're ready to finally size the bond issue, then that's what we would do. One final point on the notice of intent resolution before you this morning. The $41,500,000 that's stated in here is not, it doesn't require the county to issue that many bonds or any bonds at all. There's the idea of perhaps something falling through in the future. If that were to happen, that would be unfortunate, but nothing in this resolution binds your hands to doing anything with bonds in the future for this project. So this is a procedural step. This is a jurisdictional step. This is an authority step. Once it's taken, you can go on to the next steps in the project process.
Well, I'm glad to hear that, because it would allow the project to move forward, but without a final decision on the issuance of bonds. It would give administration time to be able to present financial figures on the operational budget impacts of this bond before a final decision is made. So, Commissioner Horton, you had.
Okay. All right. As far as where we proceed as a county and where this county is going to look like long after you and I, and even I see Steve in the picture there too, long after we're off the board, the decision we're making with building this jail is going to affect our community for not only 40 years, but well and beyond that. So one of the things I've learned is, again, Jerry, I think you touched on, Eric touched on it, and you just touched on it too. is there's a process with this. This is the process. And I know with the, when we did the last USDA or recommendation, or right now, I would not like to see anything holding it up currently. As far as let's get this process going, get this loan request, because delays can cost money, especially with loans. The market changes. So the quicker we can get the process going, with loans, but with bonds and things like that, it could be affected, the rates. So I think just this is putting it into process. I think one of the state things I've always said is with building a jail is how are we going to pay for it? I've been saying that for quite a long time. We've had a presentation by Mr. Krinovic in regards to a spreadsheet and the funds available to us. Again, there's always a risk when you're doing things like that with funding based off turbines. That's pretty much where it's going to come from right now without having to go to a vote to people. I don't know how Isabella County would fund this without those turbines. I mean, there's multiple ways. I mean, I guess you could try to play the Powerball or something and hit that, or you could put it to a tax, or you could do multiple things. But a $41 million note on our county, when you've seen our budget over the last, we're doing it, but it's bailing wire sometimes. But I think what we need to do as a board, and again, it can be changed by a different board. I mean, there's no guarantee, is we have to make specific those funds for the turbine. I know we've been blending in some of the co-township turbine monies and everything into our general fund, but this money, the property tax revenue that's generated from the turbines, my opinion, needs to be reserved we got those 5 categories, I believe, in our budget for funds coming in. I think it needs to be reserved. Again, it can be changed. I mean, by the vote of the Board of Commissioners, I believe. Is that correct, Margaret? Board of Commissioners can change
Yes.
however funds want to be spent. But I would not want to be a board commissioner if once these funds are in place and it's secure to sit there and they say, well, we're going to take this out. Now we're going to go to a vote of the people to pay for a jail. And then, that's just a logistical nightmare. So it is necessary, I believe, to build a jail in Isabella County. It would have been nice to have a nice, big, beautiful jail already built, fully funded, paid for, everything. And all these turbine monies, all the revenue generated from the turbines, we can then support, put into other programs in our community and build. But we've got to build a jail. It's mandated that we build a jail, and where the money is going to come from. It's all going to come from tax revenue. I mean, taxes are taxes, whether they come out of someone's checkbook and they write a check to pay for their house or the property, or it comes from a personal property tax on a turbine. It all flows in what you do with that money. And that's where, Jerry, I think you're speaking to what are we going to do with this budget and how are we going to address these budget needs? That's just proper planning. That's futuristic planning. That's, when I say future, that's future planning. And that's a good thing. That's doing like a pro forma on a business. Where are you going to spend? How are you going to survive? The spreadsheet we've seen with the turbine money, that's the only way I can see right now this jail can be funded. We also have taken on our second largest debt. So you're talking long-term debt. You were in that spreadsheet. We're not addressing it today because it's not in this. It's secondary to the resolution, or secondary to this talk. But we're taking on our retirement debt that we've got. That's addressed. So in regards to long-term planning, there's in my world, in the pharmacy world, you have 100%. If you look at 100% of your drug spend, 20% of the product that you buy controls 80% of your spend. So if you take a look at the jail project and you take a look at the retirement debt, that is a large portion of our debt going forward in the county. Those are 2 big ones right off the top. And I think by the spreadsheet addresses both of those. Again, is it risky to put something out? Yeah, I mean, there's risk. I mean, personal property tax could change on turbines. I mean, it's happened before, but they're not new to the state. And I think Ms. Frost, her and I have had discussions in the past in regards to another county, and what they've seen is that right now, the way the tax is on the turbines and how that's done is about as not beat up. It's about as worn and as ongoing, and it's probably going to be where it's going to be at. It's probably at its final stage as far as the dollar amounts. We're at 30% depreciation over, I believe, 7 years, and it stays at that. And, something we can budget for the dollar revenues. But again, it's keying in on one source of revenue, which I think we've defined. I think we're all comfortable. I think I can comfortably say it's got to come from the turbines. I don't know any other way we're going to get the revenue for it. B, securing that for long term. I think that's important. Again, that can change with any board. They can make that change, but I think this board has to be on record and securing those funds for that for long term. And I think that's where it's our long term, not just 5 years, not just 4 years. I mean, we're laying it down to pay for this debt that's going to stretch over 40 years. And I don't even think the retirement debt comes off until, I don't have the spreadsheet in front of me, but I know it's not in year 5 or 10. And I think it's a ways down the road, even paying that off. And getting one more thing on the budget. Number 3, I believe we're in the presentation talks about, and I got to be careful when I talk about this because we're on ongoing litigation, is talking about the delinquent tax revolving fund. I think that's even mentioned in that presentation. And that's another big budget item. And I do think, and I've said this all along too, I think we do need to have like a business format. I treat everything like a business, how I do. That's how I just see the world. And I'm sorry, that's how I see the world. But long-term planning is extremely important. This is going to be a long-term plan and not just to exceed 2 years, 4 years. This is a 40-year hit to this community. And it's going to affect programs that we'd like to have in the community. I can think of one right off the top of my head. Well, I won't say that because I don't want to go on. I don't want to say too much, but there's a lot of programs and services and things we could bring to our community if we did not have to build this jail. But we do. I mean, it's mandated. It's necessary. Anybody that, I think most of all our commissioners have taken a tour of the jail, but members of the public, they need, if it only takes, if they have any doubts whether we need a new jail in this county, go take a tour of what we have. See if we're meeting all the mandates, see how the sheriff's trying to do the best he can with what he has. We're not going to overspend. I think that's all our commissioners are agreeable upon that. And, there was an old saying that Administrator McAvoy and myself, she unfortunately gets the brunt of all my stupid sayings, but I was taught a long time ago that if you're going to spend someone else's money, spend it like you would your own. And you just, this is the biggest thing this county has done, I think, as far as spending money goes, is this jail. And Jerry, I 100% agree with you. We have to be fiscally responsible because we are affecting our community for a long time, long after I hope to make it till I'm 97. But it's going to be probably the biggest issue it is going to be the biggest issue we face as commissioners. So taking it very seriously. And I do, Jerry, I also like to add, I admire your professionalism in this because yes, as you said, you could have, if you had a negative vote, it would be a 1-1 in this case. But I think what I've always done, and I've had this situation too, a number of years ago when at that time he was chairman of the committee, Commissioner David Lang, and I disagreed. We probably disagreed on a couple of things, but David will always tell you that, I won't go into that, but it was a 1-1 a couple of times, and we both agreed. I think each one of us did it. We disagreed that, maybe we move it up to committee. Might not move it up, but move it up to the rest of the board. And this is certainly one that the board, every board member needs to weigh in on it, become acknowledged, speak up, say things. So yeah, I do appreciate, Jerry, you taking this and voting that way. I think it's very professional of you, and that's the type of person you are, though. You see things from multiple ways. So thank you for that. So
Is my halo on the back of my head?
You know me, it's a give and take, man. I'm telling you. So I don't, like I said, there's a lot, this is a huge project. And yeah, so again, that's all I got to say on that. I could go on and on, but my first meeting today was 7 minutes. The second one was 14 minutes. So we're at 44 and we're going to go from there. So I'm done as far as I want to have anything to say. So.
Okay, well, I am going to vote to move this on, but my final vote is yet to be determined. I'm in support of the jail, the sheriff's office. We need that facility badly. But as county board commissioners, we need to be fiscally responsible, and we're not just responsible for a single facility, but we're responsible for all the services provided by the county. And one thing that could be done to put aside my fears on the operational budget is to come forward with a 3-year budget projection to give us some idea what the impacts of taking funds that we've heavily used in our operational budget and swinging them over to a new use. Until that is answered, I cannot vote for that final bond. Well, I've had my say, and everybody I think has had their say. Anybody else comment? Steve, did you have anything you wanted to add? You make to the committee?
Thank you. No, I don't have anything to add. I just trying to absorb all of this information.
Okay, I'm going to reread the motion before the vote, and its motion is to consider adopting Isabella County Board of Commissioners Resolution 21-02-01, notice of intent bond resolution declaring official intent to issue limited tax general obligation bonds for the Isabella County Sheriff's Office and Correctional Facility Construction Project in the amount not to exceed $41,500,000. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Move forward to the work session. The next item is the invoice list discussion. Thank you, Eric, for presenting before us.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Eric.
Nice to meet you, Eric. Take care. Jerry, my screen went dead on my one side here, so
Okay,
do
Well,
a stretch or something like that, So
well, how about if I take the first, the January 15th?
go for it. Go for it. Yep, that's perfect. I just gotta click on my TV screen went dead, so.
I see looking at that, I see all the costs, either things that we've already approved in the budget in the past or are very routine. We have, of course, Integrated Architecture and Clark Construction Company with their billing for the jail services. We have our CPA contract with Manor Corson, PC. We have our medical examiner contract. We have landfill groundwater monitoring and reporting with Goldner Associates. And we have the Wise Township balance of remonumentation for the Register of Deeds Office with Paul Lampum and Associates, Procom, and the equipment for new police interceptor. Chippewa District Library, the first quarter fines distribution. And then we have childcare, Highfields Incorporated. And I did look at the body of the other lesser mounted invoices, and I didn't find anything there of note. I don't know if you had anything, Commissioner Horton?
No, just as far as, it's always interesting. I always focus on what some of these reports, especially on, well, you mentioned, I think you just said it, on the January 22nd invoice, out of the $1,356,831.18, under our direct control is only $352,000 of that dollar amount. So roughly what, about 3%, if my math is right, give or take. About 26% of that is under our budgetary control. All of that's coming out of the tax disbursements. This one, there's not really any drains. Drains is always a big thing that we're not under our control with, but it's a lot of money being spent, that's for sure. So again, I didn't see too much with it. You and Commissioner Hope do a very good job as far as going over the invoice list and everything. And that's, like I say, we always comment, you look at these things over and over, how many invoice lists that you see. And I just hearken back to the day when I originally, Jerry, sat on the Finance and Administration Committee, or not even then, before I was even on the committee. We used to get such a bad, I don't want to say bad, invoice register, and you'd have to look up codes to see what department they came from and how specific. This is pretty, where we've come, especially since we switched to the new software format. Boom, we see everything that's being spent. And we've had questions in regards to snow removal. That's how down deep we can dive into this stuff. So, it's again, I'm just commenting on the thing. I don't really see anything out of the ordinary on these. So, right at first glance, that could change between now and then because I'm sure we're all going to review them again. But I don't see really anything more on this. So,
Yeah, the January 22nd is largely pass-through funds.
That's the word. That's the phrase I was looking for. Thank you. Even after 3 cups of coffee, drinking it on my Tigger cup, I couldn't remember pass-through. So thank you. So.
I do have a couple of questions on the balance of the invoices, the smaller amounts. One is the Clare County Treasurer payment for animal control. Do we have a reciprocal agreement with Clare County to do animal control in the northern part of the county, or?
We have a person's agreement with them. We're working on trying to get something more firm there. At this point, we have had and I go into a deep dive, Commissioner, because it's HIPAA covered. I will just say that we have an employee who has had a medical condition. So when we have calls that we are not able to deal with because of that, and it's something that we need to call the sheriff's office for and ask if they would intercede with one of their deputies. We are working with Clare County and they are doing that for us. So we've talked with them, we've talked with the administrator and just told her to, at this point, to bill us. But this is a wonderful cross-county service, and something like that is based on relationship building. And I've known Tracy, the county administrator there, for years. Before I came here, I knew her for years. So we help each other as needed.
Okay. On that same page, which is the very first page after the introductory page, there are some HRC per diems being paid, but the amounts vary significantly. I don't know if that's because we're catching up for past meetings, but you'll see that Cheryl Gonzalez, $50, and there's another one for Cheryl Gonzalez, $100, and there's Chandra at $200, Shaw Boost $25. I'm just wondering why the variance in those dollar amounts when the per diem is the same.
The per diem is the same. So when they are filling out their reimbursement request, it's being approved by their chairman of the board. So I think that your assumption is probably correct, that some of them were catching up at the end of the year.
Okay. I have no further comments on any of that. Do you have anything else, Commissioner?
No,
So we'll move this on then to the work session. And we're down to a final call to the public.
There is no public joining in the meeting at this time, Mr. Chairman.
With that, as standing chair of the committee, I will, not standing chair, temporary chair of the committee, I will adjourn this meeting. Thank you all.
Thank you, everybody. Stay safe.
Thank you. All right, Jerry, take care. Margaret, see ya.
Yes, take care, everybody.
All right, bye.